Hello everyone and welcome to the Journey to Grandmaster series, the series where I showcase a few games that I played recently in my journey to becoming a Grandmaster. The reason why I haven't been doing these daily is because I have a new training routine where I split the days. For example, one day is opening and then the next is middle, end game, and like visualization day, and a day where I review Grandmaster games. So I split my days and I do like 2 hours to 3 hours each day studying, and then I do 15 chess puzzles a day. I'm also trying the woodpecker method, so it kind of tires out my brain by the time I actually play the actual game of chess. And so sometimes I need a few days to rest my brain because I would get headaches sometimes. But the thing after is after a few days of break of playing the game, I actually come back stronger, as we will see in the second game. But this game is the game I played at 3 a.m. in the morning, and that night when I was grinding the game, I had games where one game I would win a game by playing very well, and the next game I would lose because I blundered a piece in the opening. And then the third game I would win by playing very well. The fourth game I blunder a piece in the opening, and it was a weird seesaw effect. But this is the final game I played that night before I went to sleep, and I somehow played very well. Also, if you guys hear my voice changing in the next few days, it's because I'm actually doing vocal exercises, so I can stream for 2 hours chess without my voice dying like it usually does when I live stream. So yeah, when my voice gets strong enough, I will do almost daily chess live streams on Twitch. But for now, let's get into our first game. This is the game I played at 3 a.m. and it starts off with the London system. Also, you might not hear the chessboard audio because I have some weird audio setting bugs I gotta fix, but for today there's no, you won't hear the chess pieces. But yeah, London system. This is a c4 London, but the bishop f5 variation of it. This is all theory, putting pressure on the d5 pawn, attacking the b7 pawn. e3. You don't want to take b7, even though it's a fine move, because after knight takes d4, you long castle, you attack the knight, rook b8, you take, queen takes, bishop takes, and then rook c8, bishop e5, and then knight c6, you take. Black's position is kinda bad, but it's also very good, and you get this weird position where black is very developed and you only have one piece, and your rook and your king developed and you still have 3 pieces out. I meant ready to be developed. But that's also a valid line. I go for the e3 line, protecting the c4 pawn, and bishop d6, contesting my dark square control. I take, queen takes, knight f3 developing. And my opponent here, he probably thought he had a fried liver attack, because he played the blunder knight to b4. This move loses immediately to the move c5, cutting any defense of this knight and attacking the queen at the same time. The queen cannot go to b6 to defend, and my opponent plays knight c2. I sacrifice my queen for the knight, because after bishop takes c2, c takes d6, c takes d6, and I'm up a knight. I'm up a full piece, and I play bishop b5, developing my bishop. And this is kinda dubious because it allows blacks to connect his rooks after king e7, which kinda puts pressure on my position. A better move was king d2, booting the bishop back, or rook c1, putting immediate pressure on the c-file, forcing black to either castle or move his king in order to contest it. But I play bishop e5, stopping him from castling, but it allows him to connect the rooks kinda. But I castle, I a6, booting my bishop, bishop e2, and then my opponent plays h5, trying to start something on the king side. I play rook ac1, attacking the bishop, and also trying to control the c-file. Bishop b5, and then I play h4, to potentially give my knight an outpost, and to attack this pawn when the rook moves. But the downside of h4 is that it also gives my opponent somewhat of an outpost as well. My opponent plays the mistake knight h7. I forgot to put the little marks on, but it's a mistake because it allows knight a4. The goal of this move is to open the c-file and potentially play knight b6. And my opponent plays b5. And after b5 I should have spent more time calculating, because for some reason I did not like knight b6 and it was actually the best move. And after knight b6, rook a b8, rook c7, king d8. This is what I calculated. And here I thought that I was losing a knight. But after rook fc1, rook takes b6, rook c8, check, king e7, and then you go c7 check, king f6, you just won a rook, and you're attacking this knight. You might jump in here, attack this pawn. There's a lot of different ways to win this position, and because of this, well, because of times like this where I fail to calculate further ahead, my goal is to challenge myself to calculate at least 5 moves ahead, because I keep missing moves because I don't calculate further ahead. So after b5 I play knight c3, retreating the knight, and rook g8 was played by my opponent, and the point of this move was to maybe play g5. I play knight g5, threatening this knight and attacking the weak h5 pawn because the rook moved. So knight takes, h takes, and he plays h4 because it was being attacked by the bishop. And here I play b4, which is dubious. It prepares a4, but the best move was a4 immediately, but I actually saw this, and I did not like the line b4, knight a2, and if he played a5, I calculated up to here, and I didn't like this line, but this is the best line the engine gives. And after a5, you actually have rook c7 check, which I didn't really see. And the engine wants f3, maybe to play king f2, rook h1, attack this weak pawn. But yeah, I want f3. But I didn't see that line, so I play... Well, I didn't see the rest of that line, so I play pawn b4. And the point is, after a4, he doesn't have b4 to boot my knight. So after b4, my opponent plays h3, attacking my king. But I just play g4, attacking his bishop. And here you cannot en passant this pawn. There's like a weird rule where you cannot en passant a pawn that was on its starting score, I believe, from this close. I believe if the pawn was on h4 instead and then I played g4, he can actually en passant, but he cannot en passant here. So he's forced to move his bishop. I play a4, starting an attack. Instead of a4, dubious move, I should have played f4. And the point of this move is after f5, bishop d3, and after f takes g4, I can actually take his bishop, so it's a pin. But I didn't see that. I played a4 instead. Rook h8 was played by my opponent to push it down, but even if he pushed, I have king g2. And after king g2, my two rooks protect the the h1 square, so he will never queen, so this is not a good move. And if he played b takes a4, it actually transposes to the line f4, f5, bishop d3. Here I played fast, I didn't want any threats on my king side. So I played king h2, I should have played a takes b5, a takes b5, and then king h2 or knight takes b5. But I played king h2 immediately. Now b takes a4. I play knight takes a4. Now I have rook c7 as a threat and knight b6. So after knight takes a4, my opponent plays f5, trying to start something on the king. But after I play rook c7 check, best move, king f8, defending the weak pawn. I play knight b6, and after knight b6, my opponent plays rook d8, getting away from the attack. And I play rook fc1, getting ready to double up on the 7th rank. King g8, rook e7 attacking the weak pawn, rook b8 attacking my knight. And here, chess.com gives this move a brilliancy, but it's not actually a brilliancy in my opinion. I sacrifice the knight for an attack on the king by putting my rook on the 7th rank. After rook h7 defending the g7 pawn, I play rook c8 check, which is actually dubious. I was actually winning in like 10-12 moves if I played the move g takes f5. And after bishop takes f5, I guess this move deflects the bishop away from the defense. And then knight c8, restricting the rook from protecting the king. King f8, making sure I don't checkmate in 1. Rook e to d7, king e8, bishop h5 check, sacrificing the bishop to kinda divert this rook from helping the king. Rook takes h5, and then knight takes d6, forcing king f8, rook takes g7, bishop g6, stopping checkmate in 1. So rook takes g6, and now rook h7 trying to trade. Rook takes h7, and this is still checkmate in 1 if I get my rook here. So rook b7 trying to stop the rook, but it's no use. Rook takes b7, e5, rook f7 checkmate. But I missed all of that. I play rook c8, trying to trade into an easy endgame. So rook takes c8, knight takes c8, attacking the pawn. F takes g4, bishop takes g4, allowing my bishop to get into the attack. And my opponent plays bishop f5, which is actually mate in 6. It's a bad move. And my opponent had to play e5 to keep the game going, but he didn't see it. So bishop f5, bishop takes f5, e takes f5. And then I play g6, getting ready to checkmate in 1. Rook h6, and then checkmate. My opponent loses the game. And this is the game I played yesterday. In the time of recording this video, I played this last night. I only played one game last night, and it was this game. And I actually played at a 95% accuracy. I wasn't as fatigued after doing my training routine, so I was actually able to calculate a lot, play almost at my best. And it starts off with a Caro-Kann, an advanced variation. And here he wants to trade off the bishops early, but since I already played e6, I can just play knight e7. And the point is, after takes, I have pressure on his weak d4 pawn. But instead of taking, my opponent castles. And then I play knight e7, developing, preparing c5. My opponent plays a common mistake in the Caro-Kann, where he plays bishop g5, and this is usually a mistake because queen b6 is very good, or some other moves, but this is usually very bad because this pin does nothing at all. So I play bishop takes d3, queen takes d3, and I develop, well, I get my queen out of the pin with tempo on this pawn. So I play queen b6, attacking the pawn and putting pressure on the d4 pawn. And my opponent plays b3. This is a mistake because it wastes a tempo defending the b2 pawn. Whereas if my opponent just developed his knight, actually taking on b2 is a big mistake, because after queen takes b2, bad move. A takes b1, queen a3, and then you have this, I think it's a brilliant move, but I gave it a good move symbol. Knight b5. You're attacking the queen and you're threatening a fork. You cannot take the knight because you lose the queen, so queen has to take, and then knight d6 only move. If white plays knight c7 check in this position, king d8, and you take the queen, but you lose a knight. And the knight actually has to sacrifice itself for at least a pawn, but you're still up a knight in this position. So that's why white has to play knight d6. And after king d8, you take the queen, and black loses castling rights, and this is a weak pawn. And yeah, white is winning. He has a beautiful outpost on the 5th rank. Wait, on the 6th rank? No, that's even better. You have pressure on the king with this pin, and it's hard for black to do anything with this weakness. So that's why knight c3 should have been played for a trap. But he plays b3, which is dubious because it weakens the dark squares in white's queen side, as we will see. And now c5, he wasted a tempo, so I spend a tempo attacking his center. So now he plays c3, another pawn move, defending d4. I play knight c6, putting pressure, getting away from the attack of the bishop. He plays rook e1 for some reason. I guess he wants to take and defend this pawn, but doing so will just give me an insane attack on his king side. So this move was dubious. The engine actually preferred rook d1, defending the pawn, or bishop b to d2, developing. But my opponent plays rook e1, which is not a good move. And then h6, booting the bishop, asking it where it wants to go. Because after bishop h4, bad move. There's g5, bishop g3. The reason you do not sacrifice the knight in this position is because the king hasn't castled kingside, and there's no attack on the king side if you were to sacrifice your knight for the pawns. For example, h take, bishop takes, and there's no attack. Well, actually, you're the one being attacked here. And let's say you were castled, then you would be in big trouble in this position, but you're not castled. So after something like g3, there's g4, knight f to d2, then you take, bishop f4, and now black has an insane attack on the center, and an attack brewing on the king side, and white cannot develop his knight, and so black is winning. But my opponent plays the best move, bishop e3, putting pressure on the c5 pawn and defending d4. Here I take, which is dubious. Here I should have played bishop e7 castles and put a rook on the c8 square, but I thought this was kinda slow, but it was actually the best way to go. But I take instead, and bishop takes d4 was played, which is also a mistake. This allows me to play bishop c5, putting pressure on the f2 pawn and basically asking black to trade so I could get my knight into the attack. But my opponent plays knight b to d2, developing, and if he were to play bishop takes c5, knight takes c5, I attack the queen, queen e2, and he's also defending the e5 pawn. I play knight e4 with an outpost, Knight f to d2, because if knight b to d2, you lose a pawn. And yeah, he attacks the outpost, but black is slightly better here due to the weaknesses and the weaknesses basically. And all the weak dark squares. This knight has nowhere to go basically, and you can just castle, take the c-file, and potentially have a passed pawn. So black's position is good in that line, but my opponent plays knight b to d2. Now I take with the bishop here. Later on in the game I realized I should have kept the bishop, because the bishop actually gave me so much dark square control if I were to keep it that I actually kinda needed. So here I should have taken with the knight, and then after knight takes d4, if the knight ever moves he loses the game, and then castles, and at some point the bishop can actually go to a3 and stop the rook from ever going to the c-file, and I can just take the c-file for myself, put insane pressure, and I could just easily win the game like that if I were to keep the bishop. But I didn't, so bishop takes, c takes, and then castles. The reason why I castled here was to prepare knight b4, but I actually could have played knight b4 earlier. For example, knight b4, queen c3 attacking the knight. I wanted to put a rook on the c-file to attack the queen, and the engine gives castles, rook e to c1, rook a to c8, takes, and takes, king h7, white is 2 rooks up, but black is the queen up, and I castled so I can easily play knight b4, put a rook in. It just transposes to the line we just saw. a3. The point of a3 is to stop knight b4, and then I play a5. My opponent plays h4, the best move, starting something on the king side. Rook f to c8. Oh yeah, the reason I played a4 was because I wanted to play, the reason I played a5 is because I wanted to play a4, and let's say he plays b4. I want to move my queen, put a knight on b6, and get a permanent outpost on c4 with my rook defending it and the pawn. So if he ever takes, I could put my rook and then just double up and cause havoc here. That's the reason why I play f to c8, to support everything from happening here. And my opponent plays g3. And here I calculated the line queen d1 and queen b5. And here I didn't like the queen getting into my position, so I ended up playing the second best move, queen a6, asking for a trade. A slightly better move than queen a6 would be queen c7, doubling up. And the engine really likes the idea of me doubling up on the c-file to take control of it throughout the rest of the game. Eventually I did, but I kinda delayed it for a while, which is probably not the best. But queen a6, he rightfully declines the trade, which is queen e3 is the best move. And then I play knight e7, threatening knight f5 to attack the queen, and I open up the c-file for my rook. My opponent plays g4, which is actually a dubious move, but it stops the knight from entering f5. A better idea for white was to actually challenge the c-file. And then knight f5, queen f4, queen d3 attacking the knights and the pawn and the other pawn. g4 booting the knight back to e7, and then h5. And this is slightly better for black, but it should still be a draw with the best play. But instead he goes g4, stopping my knight. As I mentioned before, the engine really wants me to double up on the c-file, but I didn't know that, so I play a4, doing my plan of b4, knight b6, and then jumping in on the outpost. And then he just ignores the pawn with h5, and here I was a bit surprised. I didn't expect him to play h5. I thought he would take or push, and then I can do everything. But after h5 I play a takes b3. And here he plays the mistake knight takes b3. Yeah, I play rook c4, and this puts pressure on the d4 pawn, but it also stops him from playing a knight c5, which is a bad move, because after knight takes c5, pawn takes c5, you take the g4 pawn with check, and then king h1, knight f5, attacking the queen, queen e2, and white has 4 bad pawns, weak pawns, and you also have a kingside attack coming. So after rook c4, my opponent plays e to c1, contesting my rook, but it's kinda too late. He should have played king g2, getting ready to attack my kingside with his rooks. The reason why ec1 contesting is bad is because now my rook is on a outpost, so I play rook ac1, and if he were to take, I can just take with the pawn, forcing his knight back, because if he goes d2, I just march up my pawn for free, and that's why e to c1 was bad. But now my opponent plays king g2 after I reinforced this rook. I play queen a4, attacking the knight, and also attacking the d4 pawn. My opponent then plays the bad move g5. He starts an early attack, and he had 1 minute left on the clock. Now I was surprised, because I'm usually the one playing 30-second chess, but this time my opponent was low on time. So he plays g5, a bad move, which allows knight f5 now to put more pressure on the d4 pawn and boot the queen away. And he plays queen d2, which is a dubious move because it allows me to take the b3 knight. And then he plays g takes h6, and here I thought he would play ab1, and then I would either take the pawn or go to a4. That's what I was thinking he would play. But he plays g takes h6, and here I kind of forgot that after g takes h6, the pawn is defended by the knight. The reason why I played knight takes h6 here was because I played too fast, and I didn't want to really calculate. I didn't want any threats, but I could have just taken. A slightly better move than g takes h6 was actually rook takes c1, and I actually glanced at this move, but I did not want to calculate it because I thought he had like some insane attack on my king, even though there's no attack at all. But if I were to play rook takes c1, rook takes c1, rook takes c1, queen takes c1, and then g takes h6 defending the pawn, and there's no attack, queen c8 check, and then knight f8, and black is better in winning. You have a beautiful knight putting pressure. You're probably going to take this pawn after moving this pawn up somehow, and then promote. You'll probably play queen g7 and free this knight somehow. Maybe even play f6, and then you just win. My opponent plays rook g1. I guess he wanted after king h2 to like have a discovered attack, but I believe that move was too slow, so I play rook c3. I also saw rook c2, but I didn't want to calculate it. But it was the best move. And after queen queen f4, I thought there was no attack, but after knight f5, there was rook g to b1, queen d3 attacking the pawn, knight e1, queen takes, knight takes, knight takes, knight takes, and then a2. And in this position, black is better. White has 2 weak pawns, but this can just not be a weakness, kinda. but black has the passed pawn, and that's why black is winning. He's also up a knight. Well, the material is, well, it's not really equal because 2 knights are kinda better. Oh yeah, we're up like, and then you're up like 2 pawns too. Or 1 pawn. So yeah, black is just winning here. But I play rook c3, attacking the knight. And after knight h4, I play rook d3, which is not the best move. The best move was again c2. But after rook d3, queen f4. And here I play rook c4, putting pressure on the d4 pawn. And to kind of break through on the king side here. And I don't know if my opponent forgot he was low on time, or just didn't want to play anymore, but his time runs out. And I win this game with a 95% accuracy. And I was gonna play more games yesterday, other than just one. But again, I started getting a headache from studying too much. So I just wanted to take a break. I think these videos will become daily again, when I have like more mental stamina. But till then, if you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. Have a nice day and peace out.